Blood Moon's Curse. The ancient castle stood atop a jagged cliff, overlooking the misty valley below. The villagers spoke of the castle only in hushed whispers, for it was said to be the dwelling of a powerful vampiress, Vera, whose blood-red eyes had seen centuries pass. She was not just any vampire, she was a master of dark magic, a creature who could bend the shadows to her will and call upon a swarm of bats with a mere thought. The night of the blood moon was fast approaching, and with it, the ancient curse that bound Vera to her castle would be lifted for a single night. She could roam freely, hunt without restraint, and inflict her wrath upon those who dared to defy her. As the blood-red moon rose in the sky, bathing the castle in a crimson glow, Vera stood on the battlements, her long black gown fluttering in the night breeze, her lips curling into a sinister smile. "Ethan!" she called, her voice echoing through the castle's empty halls.
You are so lucky.
The sound sent shivers down the spine of her servant, who hurried to her side. Ethan, a mortal bound to Vera by a curse of his own, had served her for years, his loyalty fueled by fear rather than devotion. "Yes, mistress?" Ethan asked, bowing deeply. His voice trembled as he spoke, his eyes fixed on the ground, never daring to meet hers. "The blood moon is upon us," Vera said, her voice soft but filled with a menacing edge. "Tonight, I shall walk among the living once more. Prepare my cloak and ready the horses." Ethan nodded, quickly retreating to carry out her orders. As he left, Vera turned her gaze back to the moon, her crimson eyes reflecting its ominous glow. The night was thick with anticipation, the air buzzing with dark energy. Tonight, she would reclaim what was hers: fear, power, and blood. Deep in the village below, the townsfolk huddled together in the local tavern, the only place where they felt some semblance of safety. The old bartender, with a voice raspy from years of storytelling, began to speak as he poured drinks for the terrified patrons. "Do you know why this night is different?" he asked, his voice low. The room fell silent, all ears turned toward him. "It's the blood moon. The curse that binds the vampires in her castle weakens tonight. She can come down from her perch, hunting freely, seeking vengeance." A young man named Jacob, who had recently moved to the village, scoffed. "Surely you don't believe in such tales, old man. Vampires, curses, it's all just superstition." The bartender's eyes narrowed as he leaned closer, his breath smelling of stale ale. "You would do well to heed the warnings, lad. Many have doubted and none have returned. The blood moon gives her strength, and there's a darkness in Vera that even the bravest men cannot face." Before Jacob could respond, the door to the tavern burst open, and a cold wind swept through the room. Standing in the doorway was a figure cloaked in black, her eyes glowing like embers in the dim light. "Good evening," Vera purred, her voice silencing the room. Every head turned, and the color drained from their faces as they recognized the vampires from the old stories. Jacob stood up, his bravado faltering as he stammered, What do you want?" Vera's smile widened, revealing her sharp fangs. "What I want," she began, stepping into the room with an almost regal grace, "is to remind you all of the power I hold over this land. The blood moon has risen, and with it, so have I." The townsfolk backed away, some whispering prayers, others too paralyzed with fear to move. Jacob, trying to muster some courage, spoke up again. "You can't just come in here and what?" Vera interrupted, her voice dripping with amusement. "Feed on you. Watch me." She moved so quickly that Jacob barely had time to react. In an instant, she was upon him, her cold hand gripping his throat as she lifted him off the ground. He gasped, struggling to break free, but Vera's strength was beyond anything he could comprehend. "Please, spare him," a woman cried out from the back of the room. It was the village healer, an old woman who had seen more than her fair share of horror. "Take me instead, but let the boy go." Vera turned her head slightly, her eyes narrowing. "Why should I grant mercy to anyone? Especially on a night like this?" The healer stepped forward, her hands trembling. "Because I know the curse that binds you, Vera. The blood moon's curse. I know how it can be lifted, permanently." For a moment, the room was deathly silent. Vera slowly released her grip on Jacob, who crumpled to the floor, gasping for air. She stepped toward the healer, her curiosity piqued. "You're either very brave or very foolish to try and bargain with me, old woman. Speak quickly, before I change my mind." The healer took a deep breath, steadying herself. "The curse that binds you to this land is tied to the blood moon. But if you drink the blood of a willing sacrifice under its light, it will break the chains that bind you forever. You will be free, to go anywhere, do anything." Vera's eyes gleamed with interest, but also suspicion. "And why would you offer yourself as a sacrifice? What's in it for you?" The healer's eyes were filled with a strange mix of sorrow and determination. "I have lived long enough. I've seen too much suffering, too much death. If my life can bring peace to this village, then it's a sacrifice I'm willing to make." Vera studied her for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "Very well. If you are truly willing, then I shall grant you your wish." The villagers watched in stunned silence as the healer stepped forward, offering her wrist to the vampires. Vera took it gently, almost reverently, and as the moonlight filtered through the windows, she sank her fangs into the old woman's wrist. The healer gasped, but she didn't pull away. Instead, she closed her eyes, whispering a prayer as her life slowly ebbed away. The room was filled with a strange, ethereal light as the blood moon reached its peak. As Vera drank, a powerful surge of energy coursed through her, and for a brief moment, the curse was lifted. She could feel the chains that bound her to the castle crumbling away. When it was over, the healer collapsed to the floor, lifeless. Vera stood there, her eyes closed, savoring the feeling of freedom that washed over her. But when she opened her eyes, something unexpected happened. Tears began to stream down her cheeks. Why am I crying?" she whispered, confused and angry. She hadn't shed a tear in centuries. The answer came from the spirit of the healer, who appeared before her, a soft glow surrounding her form. "Because, Vera, in sacrificing my life, I gave you back a piece of your humanity. You are no longer bound by the curse, but you are also no longer the heartless monster you once were." Vera stared at the spirit, her emotions in turmoil. "What have you done to me?" she hissed, though her voice lacked its usual malice. "I've given you a chance," the healer's spirit replied softly. "A chance to choose a different path. The blood moon's curse is broken, but so is the darkness that once consumed you." With that, the spirit faded away, leaving Vera standing alone in the middle of the tavern. The villagers watched her warily, unsure of what she would do next. But instead of lashing out or fleeing into the night, Vera simply turned and walked out of the tavern, disappearing into the shadows. For the first time in centuries, Vera felt something other than hunger or rage. She felt lost. The curse was lifted, but so was the cold detachment that had defined her existence. The blood moon had given her freedom, but at what cost? As the moon began to set, Vera stood on a hill overlooking the village, her mind racing with questions. Who was she now? What was she supposed to do with this new life? The answers were as elusive as the wind that whispered through the trees. But one thing was certain, this was not the end of Vera's story. It was only the beginning of a new chapter, one where she would have to confront the remnants of her past and decide what kind of creature she truly wanted to be.